Welcome to Revenge with Lyra.
I sent a voicemail in tears. My daughter just collapsed. She's not breathing. Please come with me to the hospital. My mom replied coldly, "We're busy. Can't you handle it?" My sister laughed. She always makes drama. I wiped my tears, grabbed my keys, and said quietly, "All right, don't worry." What happened next made the headlines. My name is Emily Carter. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Because what happens when the people you beg to stand with you choose their convenience over your child's breath? The night blurred into sirens and flashing lights. I held my daughter's tiny hand in the back of the ambulance, whispering her name over and over, praying each syllable would tether her to this world. No one from my family came. No one sat in the cold ER chair beside me. No one held my trembling shoulders as the doctors worked. It was just me and her. Hours later, as the machine steadied and her chest rose again, I stepped outside for air. My phone buzzed, not with support, but with notifications. A new photo on social media. My sister and my mom, cocktails raised, smiling in perfect lighting. Caption: "Family time, no drama tonight." They weren't just absent. They were mocking my tears in real time. I didn't scream. I didn't reply. I made a choice. That night, while my daughter rested under observation, I opened my laptop. With shaking hands, I forwarded the voicemail, the texts, the screenshot of their post to one person who never ignored me, a local journalist who'd once covered a charity I supported. I didn't embellish. I didn't beg. I just wrote, "This is what family time looks like when a child is fighting for air." I hit send, closed the laptop, sat in the glow of the hospital monitor, my daughter breathing steadily at last. By dawn, the story was out. And by noon, their perfect cocktails were plastered across every screen in town, paired with my voicemail, my mother's cold reply, and my sister's laugh. The headline read, "Mother left alone in crisis, while her family mocked her tears." And for once, the world saw what I had carried in silence all along. By sunrise, my phone vibrated nonstop, but this time not from my family. Reporters, neighbors, strangers, all asking the same question. Is it true? The article had gone viral overnight. The voicemail transcript was printed in black ink for the world to read. Emily Carter, tearful, "My daughter just collapsed. She's not breathing. Please come with me to the hospital." Mother, "We're busy. Can't you handle it?" Sister, "She always makes drama." Alongside the words were their own smiling faces, drinks raised, time-stamped just minutes after I begged for help. By noon, the story trended nationally. My inbox flooded with messages of support. "You're not alone. We would have stood with you. Your daughter deserves better." Meanwhile, my mother's voicemail broke through the noise at 12:03 p.m. "Emily, how dare you share this with outsiders? People are calling. Do you realize what you've done to our name?" Our name. Not my daughter. Not her survival. Their reputation. Minutes later, my sister texted, frantic, "Delete it now. This is humiliating. You're blowing things out of proportion, like always." Blowing things out of proportion. I stared at my little girl, still pale, still tethered to wires, fighting for strength one breath at a time. There was no proportion to exaggerate. There was only truth. And the truth had finally found a microphone. That afternoon, a local news crew arrived at the hospital. I stood in the courtyard, hair pulled back, exhaustion painted across my face. Cameras rolled as I spoke quietly. I asked for help. I was told I was dramatic. My child's life was at risk, and instead of showing up, they raised cocktails. The clip aired on the evening broadcast, cutting between my tired face and their social media post. The contrast was damning. By the end of the day, the restaurant where they posed had deleted the tag photo. My mother shut down her account. My sister locked hers. But the internet doesn't forget. Screenshots lived everywhere. I didn't reply to their calls. I didn't need to, because every unanswered ring was answered by the world itself, a world that had finally seen the family behind the mask. And this was only the beginning. Because headlines fade. but consequences they linger. By the third day, my story was everywhere. Headlines blazed across screens. Mother begs for help during child's collapse. Family chooses cocktails instead. Clips of my tearful voicemail played on morning news shows, paired with the hollow replies from my mother and sister. Everywhere they turned, my family's words followed them. My coworkers, the same ones who rushed to hold me steady that night, shook their heads in disbelief. How could they? One whispered. Another left flowers at my desk for my daughter. Strangers began sending letters to the hospital, small cards filled with prayers and solidarity. Meanwhile, my family panicked. At 9:17 a.m., Mom left me a voicemail. Emily, people won't stop calling us. You need to tell them you exaggerated. This is ruining our reputation. At noon, my sister texted. Delete everything or I swear I'll never forgive you. Forgive me? The irony stung like salt in an open wound. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because the world already had. That evening, a local news crew returned, filming me as I held my daughter's small hand. She was recovering, color returning to her cheeks. I kept my words simple, calm, deliberate. I asked for help. They chose not to come. That's not drama. That's truth. The segment ended with a split screen. On one side, me and my daughter in the hospital room, quiet but together. On the other, my mother and sister's smiling cocktail photo, time-stamped. The contrast said more than I ever could. By the fourth day, the fallout spread. Their social accounts were locked. Friends unfriended them. Neighbors whispered when they passed. My mother's book club canceled its meeting. My sister's co-workers avoided her desk. But I stayed silent. I let the world decide what the truth looked like. Because sometimes the loudest revenge isn't confrontation. It's letting people reveal themselves and allowing everyone else to see it. And while they scrambled to salvage their reputation, I was already building something bigger. A platform for parents who had been left alone in hospitals just like me. And this time, my daughter wouldn't just survive. She would grow up watching her mother stand. The foundation started with a single post. I uploaded a photo of my daughter's tiny hand wrapped around mine, taped to her arm. Caption simply, "No parent should face this moment alone. If your family won't stand with you, strangers will." Launching the Stand Beside Fund to support caregivers abandoned in crisis. Within hours, donations poured in. Messages from parents across the country filled my inbox. This happened to me too. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for speaking out. The irony was sharp. The people who left me at my weakest had given me the loudest platform I'd ever stood on. Meanwhile, my family's silence cracked into panic. My mother's call came first. Emily, enough is enough. You've made your point. Take it down before this destroys us completely. Us. Never me. Never my daughter. Only them. Then my sister. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? People at work won't even look me in the eye. Fix this. But there was nothing to fix. The damage wasn't mine. It was theirs. At the hospital, the nurses cheered when the local news aired another segment about the fund. They wheeled in a TV so I could watch, a reporter standing outside the hospital, holding up my post, calling it a movement born out of abandonment. And in the corner of the screen, a smaller box played footage of my family leaving their favorite restaurant, faces hidden, reporters shouting questions they refused to answer. For once, the spotlight wasn't theirs to control. I didn't text them back. I didn't answer their calls. I didn't owe them explanations anymore. Because the truth had already spoken. That night, as my daughter slept peacefully for the first time in days, I sat beside her bed, tears sliding silently down my face. Not tears of grief, but relief. Because the family who tried to erase my pain had been erased by their own cruelty, while I stood stronger than they ever believed I could. And deep down, I knew the story wasn't finished yet. The world had seen the headline. But the real ending was still waiting, and it would unfold on a stage they cherished most, the community gala. The gala was everything my family worshipped, chandeliers glittering above, photographers flashing at the entrance, tables lined with silver cutlery and champagne glasses. This was their stage, their chance to remind the community who they were. Except tonight, the script had changed. The organizers had invited me weeks earlier, unaware of the storm about to break. My story had gone national. My daughter's photo, small, fragile, recovering, had become a symbol for parents everywhere. And now, my name was printed boldly on the program. Keynote speaker, Emily Carter. When I walked through the double doors, the crowd parted. People whispered, hands reaching to touch my shoulder, smiles soft with admiration. My mother froze near the bar, pearl necklace trembling against her throat. My sister tried to force a smile, but her eyes darted like cornered prey. The host tapped the microphone. Tonight we honor a mother whose courage reminded us what family really means. Please welcome Emily Carter. Applause roared. I stepped onto the stage in a simple black dress. No jewels. No theatrics. Just truth. When my daughter collapsed, I asked for help. Not from strangers, from family. The answer was silence. Worse than silence. Gasps rippled through the audience. I paused, letting the weight settle. But here's what I learned. Sometimes family isn't the ones who share your blood. Sometimes it's the nurse who sits by your bed. Sometimes it's the stranger who donates $5 to help you breathe a little easier. Sometimes it's a city that refuses to let your story be buried. Applause thundered, rising to its feet. The chandeliers shook with the sound. From the corner of my eye, I saw my mother bow her head, my sister fumble with her phone, desperate to disappear. I closed with one line. No parent should beg for company while their child fights for life. And thanks to all of you, no one will ever have to again. The applause swelled louder than any silence I had ever endured. And for once, my family wasn't at the center of the room. They were shadows on the edge, watching as the light shifted, permanently, to me. The next morning, the photos were everywhere. Front page of the city paper. Me at the podium, hand resting over my heart, the headline reading, "From abandoned to applauded, Emily Carter's story inspires thousands." In the corner of the same page, a smaller photo showed my mother and sister leaving the gala, faces hidden behind their hands, reporters swarming with questions they refused to answer. The contrast spoke louder than any speech. At home, my phone buzzed with messages from strangers, nurses, single parents, even politicians. "You're changing lives. Keep speaking. We're listening." But my family's voices cut through too, desperate and fractured. Mom's text, "Emily, you humiliated us. Do you realize people won't even look at us now?" Sister's voicemail, "I can't go to work." Everyone's whispering, "Are you happy? You've ruined us." Ruined them?
No. I had simply stopped shielding them.
Their own words had done the rest. I sat at my desk, pen in hand, staring at the foundation papers. Donations had doubled overnight. The Stand Beside Fund now had enough to sponsor patient advocates in 3 hospitals. My daughter's photo, framed beside the paperwork, reminded me why I started. She was alive, and I was finally standing. That evening, the 6 o'clock news aired an interview clip. The reporter asked me, "Do you regret sharing your family's replies?" I looked straight into the camera.
No.
Because silence protects patterns. And I refuse to let this pattern continue. Across town, my family watched the same broadcast. Neighbors texted me later. "Your mom left the store in tears. Your sister stormed out of work again." I didn't celebrate their humiliation. I didn't need to. The real victory was simpler. My voice was finally louder than their dismissal. And still, one last stage remained. Because the hospital where I had begged for company now wanted me back, not as a patient this time, but as a guest of honor. And my family would have no choice but to see me there, standing where they had refused to sit. The hospital auditorium was filled wall to wall. Nurses, doctors, patients, families. The same halls where I had once walked trembling behind a gurney now echoed with applause as I entered. A banner stretched across the stage. "Stand Beside Fund Launch. No one fights alone." My daughter sat in the front row, cheeks glowing, a pink ribbon in her hair. Her small hand waved at me, and for a moment, every bruise on my heart healed. When I took the podium, I didn't read from notes. I spoke from the place that had been silent for too long. The night my daughter collapsed, I begged for help. I thought family would be my first lifeline. Instead, I learned that sometimes the people who share your blood can leave you drowning. But strangers became family that night. And because of that, I stand here today. Applause rose, swelling like thunder. From the corner of the hall, I noticed them, my mother and sister. They had come, though not to support. Their faces were pale, eyes darting, hoping perhaps to reclaim their image. But no spotlight followed them. Instead, the cameras turned toward me as I announced the first major initiative, patient advocate stationed in ERs, ready to sit beside anyone who faced the same abandonment I had. Reporters scribbled. Flashes popped. My daughter beamed, clapping the loudest. I didn't call out my family by name.
I didn't need to.
Their replies to my plea had already been broadcast to the world. Tonight, the contrast was living proof. The woman they dismissed as dramatic was now leading a movement. As the event ended, people lined up to hug me, thank me, share their own stories. In the crowd, my mother lingered, as if debating whether to approach. She opened her mouth, but the nurse beside me called, "Emily, another photo," and I turned without hesitation. She stayed frozen, lips pressed tight, my sister tugging at her arm. They left the way they'd arrived, unnoticed, unseen, swallowed by the shadows of their own choices. And I walked out under the lights, hand in my daughter's, knowing the final act was only one step away. The silence that once broke me would soon be sealed forever. The final act wasn't dramatic. It was deliberate. A week after the hospital event, the board of the Stand Beside Fund met in a bright conference room. Papers rustled, signatures flowed, and by the end of the afternoon, the foundation was official, its account secured, its mission permanent. I left that room not as a desperate mother begging for help, but as a founder, a leader, a voice. That evening, my phone buzzed one last time with a message from my mother. "Emily, please. Let's talk. This has gone too far. We're family. We can fix this." I stared at the screen, remembering the night I had left a voicemail, sobbing, begging for presence while my daughter's chest refused to rise. Their replies had been cold, mocking, dismissive. There was nothing to fix. For years, I had carried them. For years, I had protected their image, absorbed their cruelty in silence. But silence was no longer my language.
So, I didn't reply.
I didn't rage. I simply archived the group chat, sealing their words. "We're busy." She always makes drama, like inscriptions in stone. Then I turned back to my daughter, coloring at the kitchen table, laughter returning to her lips. Because this was the real ending. Not headlines. Not applause. Not even the silence of a family who chose absence. The ending was presence.
Mine.
And while they struggled with the echoes of their own choices, I moved forward into a life no longer tethered to their approval. The story that began with collapse ended with standing tall. Not for them. For her. And for every parent who would never have to sit alone in a hospital again.